Hello there, it's Blitz, and welcome back to another of my videos. Today we are going to be talking about the Warriors Path event that has come out today on New Year's, if you're watching it today. Happy New Year's. Happy Chinese New Year's, let me change that. And we're going to be talking about how to get the Type 59 for free, which really isn't plausible, but it is possible. And is this tank worth it, and how should you run it? So as you can see, you'll see the event Warriors Path. And if you're wondering how to get the tank, what are these coins, lunar coins, and how to get 13,500 of them without spending gold. The way this event works is that every battle you play, as you see at the top, it says 0 out of 30. Every battle you play, you get combat experience. And that combat experience, when you go to your team tab, it'll show you experience listed for all of them. That is your combat experience. And how much of that you get is recorded for this lunar event once you start it by opening the scroll. And you play 30 games, and no matter what tank you run, tier 5 to 10, it will count all 30 of those games in a row once you start the event. And it's going to record the best 10 combat experience games you get and add them all up, and then that's how many coins you get. So to get the Type 59, you need 13,500, which is just an insane amount, judging that it only, I played a 6,000 damage game on my mouse earlier today, and that only gave me 1,400, combat experience, which is just, nobody's going to be pulling off 6K games in a row, 10 games in a row out of 30. It's just not plausible, which makes this event kind of not really free, because I don't think anybody can actually earn it for free unless they do 6,000 damage every game, and we know that's really not going to happen. And it's kind of sad. But I will get up to some gameplay to talk about this tank's weaknesses, its strengths, and its armor profile. But you can see this game is on dead rail, and I actually really do like the Type 59. I think its armor profile is very good. You can use these. Most people don't know this tank is not like the Russians. It actually has 7 degrees of gun depression, which is really good, judging how thick the turret is. This is just like most of the other Chinese turrets, to where you really can't pen it. It's like you combine the mobility and speed of a lightweight. As you can see, it looks like a lightweight, but then you give it, the armor of a T-54 Mod 1. Which is just super good. And not to mention, the penetration on this gun is actually 181, which is a bit more than the 175 pen the other tank gets. So that is one thing that most people do not know. Another thing is that this tank actually has a very good damage per minute of 2,035. It is a bit lower than, most of the tanks that you're playing, but it is still very nice. And, you can just see me dominating the ridgelines in this tank. If you can get that gun depression to work, you are going to be golden in this tank. Nobody can really hold you off when you're using your gun depression. You're super hard to kill. And I'll bring up the armor profile now, but you can see that turret is just solid red. 215 is the weakest spot, dead center, and then it's ranging up to 260, and then auto ricochets. The upper plate's about 175, lower plate's 160. When using that 7 degrees gun depression, that armor turns into, 220 thick. And when you angle that, it's almost being 230 pretty much at some spots, which is just insane. The side armor is okay. It's only around 80, so you can be high explosive. But again, you can see the side of the turret is almost 200 thick, which is just really, really, really good. Judging that really nothing can pen you. The rear is about 70. The rear of the turret's about 70, and the rear of the tank I think is 45. So it is a very armored tank. But do not expect to be bouncing really any tank that has over 200 millimeters of penetration in the hull, sides, or rear. But pretty much expect to bounce everything in your turret, because the turret is just so strong. It's so good. You really don't need to worry about any type of shell penning your turret. Probably not even the ISU 152 gun can pen it, just because of how strong it is. You can see this first game was just a very, nice game, pushing directly on the enemy, killing everything in the sights. One thing this tank doesn't have great of is aiming time at 2.26. That's not amazing. There are definitely better tanks for aiming time, but you can see I earned 91,000 credits that game, which is a crazy amount of credits, judging how I only did around 2,000 damage. This tank actually does very well on credit coefficients. This tank has 180% credit coefficient, which is much higher than most of the tanks. The highest being the Super Pershing at 192%. So, you're really earning great top credits, 80, 90,000 a game. Even when you fire APCR, you're still earning 60, 70,000, which is very good. And another thing I really do like about this tank is the look of it with the Digital Force camo. I would not suggest to actually get the Ding camo. I don't think it actually looks that good, and it's just a waste of money. It's like $5 or $6, I think, to actually get that camo. Maybe 10, which is not worth it. It's completely overpriced. And I'll just change the name to Ding, which isn't even that special. The Digital Force is like, $3, $2. It looks very nice. It blends in with the tank well. So definitely try and pick up that camo if you get this tank. Judging that you really can't get this tank for free, it's going to cost you at max, $10, $20, depending on how good you are at the game, how much experience you can actually manage to build up. But even if you only get, 1,000 experience on all 10 of your games that it counts, that's still 10,000 points, which is, very good. 10,000 points is going to be getting you, probably maybe $10 to get the tank then. That's not bad at all. It's super cheap. You can easily get it and pick it up for free. Pretty much on the IS5 costing price. This game in Castilla, though, was very disappointing for me, judging on how much effort I put in, and the team still managed to lose this, you will see. I'm just pounding every single tank I can, over and over. But I am going to lose a bit of health soon. I get hit in the rear for 550 and the front for 192, and now I only have 300 hit points left, and not to mention my HE bounces because it hits the gun of the CDC. So now I'm at 158 health, and I do not know where the RHN is actually sitting in the back of the map. So I'm trying to be very careful in this game. But the thing that kind of annoyed me in this game is on how much effort, I, as a player put in here, killing, 2 of their tanks, distracting their tank destroyer, and yet our heavy tanks are still dying. We have, what is that, a Carnarvon? We had a Carnarvon, a T-34, and a Low, and all of them are pretty much dead, which is very bad. And, one thing I didn't even notice until the game was over is that we actually had a T-49, which was very annoying. That T-49 has 47,000 battles in the game, and he only has a 45% win rate. And, you may be wondering, why have teams been getting so bad lately? And the reason because of that is, I think it was update 5.5 or 5.4 when they nerfed the lower tier vehicles. Is what happened is that those lower tier seal clubbers are, they're now starting to migrate up to the higher tiers and buy these overpowered premiums like the WZ-120. I've seen people with thousands of battles in these WZs already, even though it's only been out for a couple months since the Christmas event, which is when they've been picking them up, really. Which is quite disturbing, judging how abusive players are in the game when they can be just to win. I was going to take that Chelman M6, but I just didn't want to get detected. As you can see, I'm only 230 meters away. But really, it's these players that ruin the games for you when you're doing these great 4,000 damage games and you wonder why you're losing. It's not your fault. It's usually your team's fault for not knowing where to push. That T-34 is the last tank left. He's going to bounce that M6, and he's going to pretty much bounce his other shell, I'm pretty sure, and do almost 0 damage this game, which is just really disappointing to me when I, have done myself 30,000 battles and haven't seen players this bad, these many games in a row, for a year or two. And it's just very disappointing. You can see it's 3 versus 1. I'm not going to win this. RHM heats me, which still made me kind of annoyed because you really shouldn't need a heat round to pen the front of a Type 59 even when looking down on it. Like, you can look at my team's win rate, 44%, 43%, 52%, 31,000 battles. This player probably has, 1,000 battles, 2,000 battles in Tier 3, my guess would be, you can see, he has 1,000 battles in this premium, 1,000 battles in a KV1. He has these overpowered low tiers, as you can see. All these players with these 1,000 battles, 15,000 battles, 44% win rate. This guy has 4,000 battles in a Foch. I don't even know why. It doesn't, these players don't make sense. And they run these tanks, over and over, just ruining, the matchmaker. This guy in the T-49 did 33 damage, and he has 47,000 games. And I didn't even see him push with me. You can see this guy has 19,000 games in a Leopard. 18,790 games in a Panzer III. Look at these overpowered tanks this guy played. The T-49 autoloader, or ATM, that was out for like, 30 days, and this guy managed to play 770 games in it in that time. These players just completely abused these low tiers. And it's kind of sad, really, how you can play 3,000 and 18,000 games in these low tiers and still only have a 55% win rate. They have no clue where they're pushing, and they're ruining these high-tier games because Wargaming is allowing these players to pick up these premiums, they're just allowing these bad players to get into our games and ruin our matchmaker. And, I'm not sure if Bushkar or Medsy or Martin Dogger made a video on this, but one of them said that if you were to put 60%ers with 60%ers, you would make 50%ers, which would just completely mess up the system again. I do agree with that, but where I don't agree with the thing he said is that what Wargaming should actually do is just make it so that any players under 40% should not be able to play players over 50%. It shouldn't be a thing. Wargaming should do a thing where they calibrate the first 10 battles you play, they see how you do, they see your average damage, they test all your statistics, and judging on that, they will put you in matches, with players that have higher and lower, but not absurdly higher. I want to be fighting players that have skills and having teams that have skills. I don't want to lose games where, you lose them, 5-0, 6-0, you're the last person left, still pulling off 2,000 damage, and then having your team doing 5 zeros and like 200 damage in total, and it's very frustrating as the player. The reason you might be getting these super high damage games as well, if you're getting, 5,000 damage games and you're wondering, why are they easier to get than before, it's because you're also playing worse players and playing worse teams, which is just making it easier for you to gather up more damage because they don't know how to shoot at you or penetrate you. And it's just very frustrating. But for the last replay, I'll talk about the tank, and enough with my ranting on Wargaming's screwed up, logic. You can see I'm pushing the tank in a spot to where the turret is pretty much impenetrable. I think that Yag Tiger got me in the hull, but I'm hiding the turret. to where these tanks can barely even see me, slamming shells into that VK, really using this tank's gun depression and turret armor to its abilities. You really want to do that. I really didn't want to push out there because I knew that VK had a shell, and I didn't want to be hit by him. And this was the first game I played in the tank today, so that was very nice. I didn't expect to do as well as I did. We'll say the gun is not the most accurate. The dispersion isn't amazing that I'm aware of. I will check. Yeah, the dispersion is 0.353, which is about the same as a Russian tank destroyer, which isn't impressive at all. You're really going to have to wait for your shells to aim in, and still your shells probably aren't going to hit the targets you want them to be hitting accurately. But as you can see, you really don't want to be camping in this tank, which is fine, because this is more of an aggressive medium. So you can see how I'm playing it is very aggressive. So, hiding the turret on this bridge as the little lip covers my tank. If I'm running it aggressive, I don't have to worry about the bad dispersion, because I am very close to the enemy, and I don't even really need to really be aiming at little spots that are hard to very hit. You can see the aiming circle on the run is very large. I wouldn't suggest really firing on the run. If you can stop and hit the person, then it would be better. But really, you want to get the Type 59 in a hold-down position, as you can see, to where these people really can't pen you. Because this tank is just, its turret is so strong, if you were to ram, something like an IS-5 that doesn't have that gun depression, you're making it so that you're just punishing him, and he can't really pen your turret, and if he's trying to pen it with heat, just wiggle it back and forth, which is one thing you can do while face-hugging. I didn't actually think we were going to win this game, judging that the base capture was at 910. But the enemy decided to be very stupid and push right into my tank. You can see, though, I bounced one shell from him, and I bounced another shell, him hitting my front track wheel even, which you would think would pen me. This tank does have a very, very strong armor profile, which I do like about it. You can see I did 4,000 damage game, another 100,000 credits. And just to give you a point of reference, this game I still only got 1,289 combat experience, which by the the expectancy you'd need to earn still net 14,000 combat experience in another game to compensate for this, which would be literally 5,000 damage in a tier 8. That's hard to do in a tier 10, yet alone a tier 8. I think Wargaming did make this tank a little too hard to earn for free, but I think the event is fine just because you can purchase it for $5, and it's really not that big a deal. And I do think the tank looks great. Overall, I think that this vehicle was completely worth it to do the grinds, and try to get it. And if you already own it, it's still worth it, because if you already own this vehicle and you get up to the second to last or the last, you can still skip the last one, for $5, $10, and you'll be able to get, 4 million credits, I think it gives you in compensation, which is just great. I really do like this vehicle. The gun depression, the good gun, everything's great. In my books, this vehicle gets my approval. But other than that, guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.